What does Rahul Gandhi signify to us? When I say to us, I do not mean to those who feel sympathetic towards him, those who feel increasingly drawn and attached towards him, but also to every Indian. The other day, I shared with all of you a video in which I analyzed the 5 different aspects of the art of public speaking that we may discern from the speech of Rahul Gandhi. And I'm glad to see that so many of you found that video, the substance of the video, meaningful, and you're able to connect personally to its contents. But it's important for us to realize that a speech does not come into existence by its own. A speech issues from or emerges from a person. You cannot separate the person from the speech because a speech is not delivered by a machine. It may so happen that as the technology of artificial intelligence progresses further, you may not need people or leaders to make speeches. You can have custom made robots to make speeches for you. All you have to do is to provide a cue, and the machine, using its brilliant artificial intelligence, would do the rest. But we have not reached there yet. As of now, it's a human being that speaks. And I believe that that's the charm of it. So it's important, and I'm very keen to underline this, that while we admire this very fresh approach to parliamentary debate that we find embodied in Rahul Gandhi, we must also pay attention to the person that Rahul Gandhi is. If you would recall, the very first video I shared with all of you was an attempt to draw the attention of those who cared to view it to the person of Rahul Gandhi, the person that I encountered a long time ago, I think in 1989, when he was a first year undergraduate student at St. Stephen's College. It was done not as an accident, it was done deliberately. Because what I find in our public life is that a lot of attention is paid to what an individual does, and hardly any attention is paid to who the individual really is like. Because modern society is a society focused on functions, not on persons. For example, when I was a little boy, I lived in a village in Kerala. And in those days, we didn't have many books. So we attached a lot of importance to newspapers. We only had one newspaper in those days. There were two major newspapers, Madhrubhumi and Malayalam Manorama, but no family could subscribe to more than one newspaper. So we subscribed to Malayalam Manorama. Later on, when I reached a stage when I began to read English with some difficulty, my mother, even though she couldn't afford it, subscribed to the Indian Express, which was very much in favor in those days, and it maintained some standard under Frank Moraes, who was the editor. His son is Dom Moraes, who is a very popular literary person, especially he writes beautiful books for children, children's classics. So it is important. I wanted to say that every day I would wait for the paper vendor to come, and he used to come by about 7:45, 8 o'clock. And he would not only give me the newspaper, but he would also stand and he would tell me about his sorrows, his problems, and how difficult life was, etc. I was a little boy in those days, but he didn't mind that, and he treated me as a person in whom he could confide. I knew his name, he knew my name, and we had a kind of personal interaction. Then I shifted to Delhi, and I lived in a multi-storied building for a long time in an apartment. So every day by about 5:45, 6, I would hear a thud on the door of the apartment, and that would be the newspaper tightly and neatly rolled and secured with a rubber band, hurled from below by the paper vendor, whom I would never get to see because by the time I come and open the door, he would have disappeared. So the the person of the paper vendor never mattered to me. He disappeared from the equation, and only the paper, the newspaper, and myself, we were left. So I'm giving you this personal experience to alert us to the fact that in the way of life that we have chosen for ourselves, the emphasis on the human is lost. Only functions are left. For example, in the modern democracy, and we are supposed to be a mature democracy, a democracy is supposed to be a government where people are sovereign, the power of the people, the will of the people is the ultimate authority or source of authority. And it is a sacred duty to go and vote once in 5 years. So, what is actually your worth as a citizen? It is reduced to a mere function of a 5-yearly visit to a polling booth and pressing a button on an EVM, electronic voting machine. So it's only the function. It doesn't matter at all what manner of a person you are. That is totally irrelevant to the practice of democracy. The only thing that matters is your function, the fact that you bothered to go to the polling booth and press a particular button. Now, this is what I mean by reducing human life to mere functions. And that's a terrible disservice that we do to ourselves. In a mature democracy, there must be some provision for regarding what manner of people we are becoming. After all, we're all concerned about having good leaders. How can we get good leaders if we don't become a good people? That's why it is said that the people get only the sort of leaders they deserve. What sort of leaders do we deserve? If in the Indian democracy, all that matters is that we go to a polling booth once in 5 years and press a button, that we are no more than that casual function. Now, this is a terrible reality, and unfortunately, there is no mention of realities of this kind in our public discourse. So, ultimately, what matters is not what we do, but who we are. Because even what we do will be determined by who we are. Our outward actions are, unless we are acting under coercion or in an inebriated state in which we are not in possession of our senses or consciousness, our actions are an outworking of the manner of people that we are. Now, if we are a corrupt people, we'll certainly vote the corrupt into office, into power. On the other hand, if you are a caring, compassionate people who care for the basic values of justice, equality, liberty, fraternity, the four ideals stated in the preamble to the Indian Constitution, then we will elect people accordingly. Then the question arises as to how come that a sizable proportion of the people of the leaders that the people of India elect have hardcore criminal records. So, what manner of people are you electing as your leaders and your representatives? These are questions to be asked. Unfortunately, there are no forums to ask such questions. There used to be such discussions in the past, not enough, but there used to be at least a modicum of such discussions. But these concerns have evaporated altogether from our life, and it's high time that we bring them back. It's in this context that I want to share some basic thoughts about Rahul Gandhi. Again, not to showcase him as an icon and the savior of India and that kind of thing. I mean, I detest any blind adulation of any person. There is no point in praising somebody unless we experience within ourselves and we also decide to become the kind of person that he or the person that we admire represents, the qualities that are embodied in him. And that is the reason why I thought I'd share these thoughts regarding the person that Rahul Gandhi is. In the previous video, I spoke about the speaker that Rahul Gandhi is, how he has improved in his art of public speaking, and how we may discern certain time-tested techniques that help improve the art and the talent of public speaking. Now here in this video, I'm dealing with a subject far more fundamental. Let's get started. I'll only be able to make a beginning in this video. Now, if a person is to speak with force and speak with force, the force that we feel, consistently over a period of time, he has to be a person who feels for the issues and the ideals that he proclaims in public. It is possible to assume a posture of idealism, a posture of bhakti or spiritual fervor, a posture of meditation, a posture of concern for the people of India, a posture for probity and integrity in public life for the sake of a particular speech. But to be able to consistently take the same stand and articulate that stand with power, passion, conviction that can move the people who listen to him, a person has to be sincere. Sincerity is the harmony between what a person appears to be in public and what he inwardly is. That is my simple definition of sincerity. So, my first suggestion to you is that on available evidence, and I have been watching Rahul Gandhi for the last 20 years at the very least, and that's good enough time to form a fairly dependable impression, truthful impression or understanding of a person. So, in my observations spread over 2 decades, the very first thing that I feel about Rahul Gandhi is that he's a sincere person, that he's not play acting the role of a good man in public in order to secure some kind of political or electoral gains. He is simply being true to himself. He is being what he really is in public life. And that is something very great because, especially in the context of post-truth politics, hypocrisy becomes the virtue rather than sincerity. So you have only two models of politics. One is the politics of sincerity and the other is the politics of hypocrisy. Now, the politics of hypocrisy will depend heavily on propaganda. Propaganda is the art of making what is not appear to be what is. In other words, to borrow the words of Shakespeare's Iago in the tragedy Othello, Iago says, I am not what I am. I am not what I am. That's what the world of propaganda does. So there is no margin for sincerity in this model of post-truth politics, which is driven largely by propaganda. And it is because of this importance or domination of post-truth politics that there is such a nexus between the center of political power and the center of media power. So today the state and the media have become one. And that's what we mean by the Godi media, the media that is perfectly and totally co-opted by the center of political power, and journalists become prostitutes, that is, people who prostitute their journalistic vocation for the sake of certain patronage. This is a phenomenon with which we are familiar, and it doesn't call for a detailed description or explanation. Now, in such a context, we have a person who tries to be sincere in his public life. Now, sincerity means there are two types of sincerity. One is weak and anemic sincerity. The other is dynamic and powerful sincerity. The first type of sincerity, sincerity that is weak and anemic, cannot impact. It is there, it's a good thing. Like, for example, uh, uh, your agony aunt next door. It's a good thing to have an agony aunt. She goes round and lets others cry on her shoulders. But she really has no impact. And she has no impact even in her own house. In fact, as far as the members of her home is concerned, she is lost to them. But to everybody in the neighborhood, she's a good person. Everybody has a good word to say about her. But that's it. Nobody takes her seriously. Whether she is dead or alive makes no difference. Nothing wrong. No major complaints about her. She is not a social pestilence. It's all right if she's there. It's not all right. It is also all right if she's not there. That kind of thing. Anemic goodness. But there is something called potent, dynamic, dynamic and impactful sincerity. That's the kind of sincerity that we find manifested or embodied in Rahul Gandhi. Now, my point is this, and this is important for us to realize, that to be potently and impactfully sincere, a person has to have two things. One is he must have a high order of personal being. He must have powerful feelings, powerful sentiments, powerful thoughts, powerful understanding. In other words, he must be a person of a higher order of being truthfully within himself. Not pretended, not assumed, not play acted, but he must be a person who lives his life on a higher level of emotions, higher level of impulses, higher level of understanding, higher level of willpower, higher level of thinking. So he must be a person of a higher level, of a greater potency, greater capacity for life, greater intensity, even if that intensity is very purposefully controlled intensity as against chaotic, anarchic intensity. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So, that is one aspect. The other aspect is, while that rich inner life, potent, powerful inner life, an inner life of vitality, an inner life of radiant truth, an inner life of overflowing beauty is there must also be the corresponding commitment, the social sense, the political will, and above all, a determination, a keen sense of purpose, a keen sense of mission to impact the world around in order to improve it, but improve it not only for one's own sake, but for the sake of everyone else. We all would like to impact the world if we can, but that's only for our own benefit, our own sake. But the true sign of greatness is that a person who has this higher order of personal potency, personal vitality, comprising powerful instincts, impulses, intellectual capacities, willpower, etc., wants to impact the total context in which he is in order to promote not only his interest, but even more the interest of everybody else. That is the essence of sincerity as I understand it. It is this sincerity that I find in Sri Rahul Gandhi. And I want us to be clear about it because people only have a very vague, subjective notion that, there is something good happening in our midst. But it's very important to understand as clearly as possible what is good about it. Why do we feel this kind of attraction towards him? What is it? What is that good element in him which exerts a sort of influence, a magnetic power upon us which we cannot resist and we can't understand? We can neither understand nor resist. But it is possible to understand it provided we stay engaged with it in a seeking manner, and that's what we are trying to do. Now, this element of potent, effective, inspiring, change inducing sincerity was precisely what was lacking in the International Congress as it came to be by 2004. As 2004 is a significant year, both for the Congress Party and for national life, the history of India. In 2004, a small beginning was made with the reluctant entry of Sonia Gandhi into national politics. I know it for a fact that she was most unwilling to enter politics. After the assassination of her husband, and prior to that, the assassination of her mother in law, whom she revered. Revered is the word. She adored Indira Gandhi. She was so heartbroken and she had become so inwardly negative, exasperated by the idea of politics that she didn't really want to see a politician come anywhere near the house. Congress leaders found it both urgently necessary to meet her and virtually impossible to meet her. This went on for at least 3-4 years. That is when Sitaram Kesari became the president and so on and so forth. But by 2004, it became absolutely clear that unless somebody from the Nehru-Gandhi stock assumed the helm of affairs of the Congress Party, the party would simply disintegrate. So at that time, many people tried, many people worked on her, and she reluctantly agreed to be the president of the International Congress, INC. What she brought into the Congress was this element of sincerity. But she had a handicap, and that handicap was created by BJP and the propaganda machine. It was played up that she was a foreign national, she is an Italian, even today. That is mentioned to her discredit. Though Indians as a people are very fond of things foreign, everything foreign, we will take a foreigner more seriously than the best among us. But for political purposes, it's a very, very inexcusable wrong to have been born abroad. Mother Teresa was also harassed in this manner, and she very, very, very cleverly and thoughtfully said something. He said, you decide for yourself who is a more sincere Indian, one who happens to be born in India or one who makes a deliberate choice to be an Indian. It's obvious that one who renounces her own country in order to identify herself with the poorest, the least and the lost, the dead and the dying and the destitute in India, will attach her heart to India with greater passion than someone who just happens to be born here. So, but even then, the attack on Mother Teresa continued, and the same attack was directed against Sonia Gandhi. So, she felt choked, and this I can testify because I've interacted with Sonia Gandhi on this one issue. She felt really choked, and therefore she was not able to bring her native goodness to have free play in the dynamics of Indian politics. So she always played a kind of subsidiary role. She had to hide behind the curtains to be able to do some good to the people of India. But fortunately, Rahul Gandhi does not suffer from that handicap. Though an attempt was made by Subramanian Swamy to rake up the issue of Rahul Gandhi's citizenship, alleging that he has a foreign citizenship, etc. I don't know why he has not pursued that agenda. If there is any truth in it, he should pursue that agenda vigorously, because I don't want anyone to harbor an untruth and take the people of India for a ride, whether it is Rahul Gandhi or anybody else. Let there be truth affirmed and upheld with respect to everyone. Let everyone be accountable. But Rahul Gandhi doesn't suffer from that handicap. So he is able to bring his native goodness into free play. Now, here there is an important issue, an issue that was highlighted by Aristotle in his two books, Ethics and Politics. Aristotle says that in order for a good society to come into being, the first requirement is the creation of the good human being. But then he says, even if you create a good human being and there is no good society, that good human being will feel only choked and he won't be able to bring his goodness to bear on public life. And Rahul Gandhi does face that kind of a problem, because every attempt has been made to make him feel choked and to deny him the freedom to bring his native goodness to bear on our national life. That's the reason why, in my own very humble and ineffectual way, I've been trying to counter it by projecting what is good about Rahul Gandhi, because the attempt to choke an individual in order to disable him from doing his best for the country is an atrocity perpetrated not only against that individual, it's an atrocity perpetrated on the country as a whole. So everyone who cares for India must feel about it. So anyway, now fortunately a situation has come into being in which, more than the situation before 2024 general elections, it is possible for Sri Rahul Gandhi to give an uninhibited expression of his native goodness. Therefore, though this element of sincerity, this element of political goodness existed in him from the time that he was a young man, even before he entered politics, the freedom to express his native goodness in political terms was not available to him, which is a reflection on the wickedness that has been injected into the veins of our national life. It's a very serious matter. If a good man feels suffocated within the systems and societies that you create, then it's a serious indictment of the wickedness that has taken hold of us. So the freedom to be good is not obtained. In fact, the orchestrated attack on Rahul Gandhi is entirely because of the goodness that he embodies in him, because the perpetrators of evil fear the potentiality for good more than any other forms of wickedness. So rapists and murderers will be tolerated, but a person like Rahul Gandhi will be projected as the ultimate scandal, the ultimate shame on the country, the ultimate embodiment of all that Indians are obliged to hate and despise and, if possible, destroy. This is nothing but a public display of one's own incurable ethical moral illness. And fortunately, the people of India are increasingly realizing that underlying this grand project of degrading and defaming Rahul Gandhi was a diabolic spirit, and it will go against their interest to lend credence to and lend support to this diabolic project. So therefore, it augurs ill for the Sangh Parivar, the BJP camp, to persist and persevere with this very negative agenda. It has already begun to be hugely counterproductive. Anyway, the good thing is that Rahul Gandhi today feels empowered. And that's a significant change for the better that has already happened. That change was not brought about by Rahul Gandhi alone. That change was brought about by the people of India, and therefore In this regard, I will give 7 out of 10 to the people of India and 3 out of 10 to Rahul Gandhi. So the people of India were largely responsible for bringing about the change that we see today, a change which is still very young. I hope this fledgling change will be strengthened and consolidated in the months and years ahead. That's my fervent hope for India. So what I'm saying is that in Rahul Gandhi, I see a person of sincerity and the power of sincerity. If Rahul Gandhi finds time to go and sit with a cobbler or a carpenter or the railway locomotive autopilots or the kisans or interact with children or shopkeepers and so on and so forth. So you can do it for 1 day, 5 days, 2 months. After that, you will be burned out. Unless and until it is something sincere and native to a person, unless it is a natural expression of a person's inward vitality and truth, it cannot be sustained. Now, I am amazed that he can reach out to people in every part of India, in the nook and corner of India, in every situation, the people that nobody actually cares for, and find time to interact with them, to listen to them, to identify himself with them. Surely it is an outworking of something spontaneous, something natural, something truthful within him. It cannot be acted. Play acting cannot be sustained for this amount of time, for 20 years. It's impossible. And therefore, what Rahul Gandhi has brought into our political life and our national consciousness is not merely the capacity to speak persuasively, powerfully, and purposively, but also an alternate model of political leadership. Or, to put it more crudely, an alternate model of the political animal, as against the self-seeking, unconscionable, brutal uh, pursuit of political power and party interests, as against the unbridled effort to secure power and perpetuate oneself in power, if necessary to the detriment of all else, as against the willingness to go to any extent in resorting to unscrupulous methods to deceive the people in order to gain their confidence, as against the very eloquent profession of commitment to and concern for the people, but in actual fact doing everything possible to undermine their well-being, the well-being of the common people, the poor, etc., and doing everything to promote the interest of the rich and the upper class and the economic elite. An alternate political personality who really cares for the people, who identifies himself to the plight of the lowliest and the lost, who finds time to be with the people, who does not revel in creating the maximum distance between the leader and the led in order to inflate the sense of one's importance, who believes that the power that is genuine and healthy is the power of love rather than the power of control and manipulation. This is a new political person where sincerity and not play acting matters, where being with the people is far more important than impressing them from a distance, where national priorities must be reorganized to be in sync with the life and needs of the people, the aspirations especially of the youth and the workers and the kisans of this country, the farmers of this country. In other words, marrying political power to as the four fundamental values stated in the preamble to the Indian Constitution, namely justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. What Rahul Gandhi is doing is practicing fraternity. He is fraternalizing with the people of India, irrespective of their social, economic handicap, their caste handicap. He is practicing fraternity, something that very, very few politicians have practiced with the extent or degree of sincerity that Rahul Gandhi is trying to practice. That's a spontaneous expression of his personality. He is also practicing equality. The aches and pains, the frustrations, the life burden of a mochi, a cobbler, also matters. The frustrations of a furniture making carpenter also matters. The hopes and aspirations of a little boy, poor, neglected by everybody else, also matters. That's also India. That is the new political force of personality as against propaganda, as against manipulation, as against the chessboard movements of economic, trade-off, etc. That Rahul Gandhi symbolizes. And therefore, the power of his speech is not a matter of mastering some art of public speaking, because I would have created that wrong impression through my previous video. That's the reason why I felt obliged and compelled to do this video. It's not a matter of mastering some techniques of public speaking. Ultimately, the most decisive thing is that he is the kind of person who can speak sincerely. And it's the sincerity of the heart, the truthfulness of the mind and the soul that gives wings to your words. That, my friends, more than anything else, is the secret of the power of every word that Rahul Gandhi utters. It is this power that rattles those in the treasury benches. It is this power that they are finding so hard to cope with because they don't have it in their arsenal, the weapons to deal with this kind of an existential crisis that Rahul Gandhi has precipitated for them. Therefore, they hate him. They hate him from the bottom of their hearts, from the from the marrow of their bones, which is understandable. It's understandable because Rahul Gandhi strikes them as a pestilence for which there is no vaccination or inoculation. And it's a power of sincerity. I repeat, it's a power of sincerity. And therefore, I feel grateful to him that he has demonstrated the power of sincerity in politics at a time when everybody in this country concluded that the power of propaganda, the power of deception, the power of insincere, untruthful manipulation of the people, the power of money, the power of media, has attained such unprecedented preeminence that this juggernaut of post-truth politics, a politics of insincerity, can be stopped by none. It is today a danger of being stopped. And that, I believe, is the warning that the oratorical powers of Rahul Gandhi, which stems from the sincerity and vitality of his inner life, augurs for the BJP and the NDA, BJP more than the NDA. And I would very keenly watch, as indeed I am sure all of you will watch, how this very interesting interplay of play acting and sincerity will play out in the days ahead. Very interesting times. Let's keep our eyes and minds open. Thank you. Wish you a wonderful day ahead.